Hello there.
Hello, Dan. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. I still haven't quite mastered the art of subtly blending the volume down.
Yeah.
It's,
And smooth music stops.
yeah, boom. Hello there. No, so yes, welcome to a new edition of the Shedheads, Phil, season 2, episode 3, no less. Feels like an established program now.
Yeah, except when you listen to some of those podcasts and people are on episode 427 and go, yeah, that's commitment.
That's a complete detail. We're reinventing things here all the time. So I don't know about you. I'm hoping you can't hear it too much, but it's quite windy in Newbury today, and there is a tree directly behind the set, which is scraping branches across the roof intermittently. So if there's weird
Okay.
background noises, that's what it is. It's the weather and the
Oh,
trees.
weather type wind, not flatulence.
No, not this time. Although, at that age where these things can take us by surprise.
As long as it doesn't blow the trees down, otherwise we're in trouble.
Yeah, you're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off. So how's your week then?
Yeah, it's all been good. It's kind of flashed past really. So yeah, Friday already, but all okay. I've spotted something on. I was going to talk to you about some of your stuff in a second, but I spotted something just now on LinkedIn, like this morning, that I just wanted to
Mm,
test you on. Have you noticed that you've lost a load of followers quite recently?
I was going to bring this up as well.
Ah,
You've beaten
okay.
me to the jump. Yes. No, so I haven't. I haven't noticed that, but then that's because I'd like to think I've developed
You've
a quality following over time.
well curated.
But I have seen other people talking about it.
Yeah, I lost about 30 or so overnight. I spotted that Wendy Van Gilst, who is a sometimes watcher of this LinkedIn Live, she posted about it a couple of days ago. She lost 70, and apparently LinkedIn is having a bit of a cleanup job to get rid of a few bots. There you
Interesting.
go.
I'm just going to, yeah, no, mine definitely is staying at the same level as it was before. Actually, there was a kind of a related point that I was going to make, which is I also saw Elon Musk tweeting about the fact that Twitter was culling a load of inactive accounts as
Yeah,
well. So it's not just a LinkedIn thing. There's definitely more of a kind of concerted effort this week, it feels like, for the social networks to have a high quality of account on their
yeah.
platform. Well, certainly, where there are
Twitter's
obvious
always had a
people that
problem
are
with that. It's always had a problem. I mean, you can
huge.
buy followers and all of that. So I think
Yeah.
they've never been able to quite crack that one. But yeah, good to see that LinkedIn is having a bit of a cleanup job as well. How's your
Yeah.
week been? Anything else to highlight as being
Well,
noteworthy?
nothing to do with social media. More to do with being in business, being a business person. This morning, I had a very very good explanation of the fundamentals of the accounting software that I'm now using, which I'll be honest, weren't. It's not been particularly intuitive. Let's just say the early stages. So kindly had Freddie Slater from PBA accountants talking me through and answering my noddy questions. I hate numbers, Phil. I've got a post coming up about that next week, in fact.
Okay, I was about to
Um,
say, Dan, we've only probably got a handful of people watching live now, and they've all gone.
they've all disappeared. They've all gone, yeah. But yeah, so yeah, that's kind of something that I need to get on top of. What about you? Has there been anything that's kind of stood out for you? I mean, it's obviously been another short week. We've had bank holidays back to back. We're now facing the terrible prospect of a full working week next week before our next bank
Yeah,
holiday.
no, it's all good. I think we should crack on. Why don't we just tell people, for those that watch the beginning of this thing, what we're going to cover to kind of whet
Yes.
people's appetite?
Yeah, so the three things we're going to talk about today are what are the most useless or worst and best features that LinkedIn has or has
Yep.
had. Um, we're going to talk about automation and the role that it plays, should play, shouldn't play on LinkedIn. And we're going to talk a bit about employee social advocacy as well to round it all off. So quite a kind of a wide range of different topics to get through. And because I am on this first point about the best and worst LinkedIn features, it would be great to get input from the audience as well. So if there's something a feature about LinkedIn that you really love, that you are still using today, or you wish was still available because it's been, or something you think was an absolute disaster and you don't know why they even bothered, please drop it into the comments and let us know. But I'm going to be the Grinch on this one. I'm going to deal with the stuff that I think was really bad. So I think when we think about features of the past on LinkedIn, the most useless feature was LinkedIn stories.
Why
I
didn't
do
you like
not
LinkedIn
understand.
stories? What was your beef with them?
I don't. I think it misread the audience on LinkedIn. I get that it was a move to play to a younger audience, I think, because it was following in the footsteps of things like Instagram and the format that TikTok's used as well, with vertical videos especially. But that's not the LinkedIn audience today. And I saw the usual sort of flutter of interest in LinkedIn stories, lots of kind of people that are very active on the platform experimenting with it, but it very soon sort of diminished. And then there was all of a sudden you weren't seeing LinkedIn stories being used, and they killed it.
I don't
I
know.
just don't.
I
I don't
think
know
they
what they
just
were
got the
thinking.
timing wrong. I don't think LinkedIn shouldn't be for a younger, hipper audience,
I
even if
didn't
they're not
say that.
teenagers.
Don't misrepresent what I
Yeah.
said.
I think they got the timing wrong. I think they launched it during the pandemic when we were all, well, white collar workers were all stuck at home in front of a screen. So there was nothing happening in our lives to tell people about. I think if they did it now, it might be a bit different. But there you go. It's gone.
I'm
You don't
still
like it.
not convinced that it would have
Yeah.
done. But
Well, I think
we'll
you're in the
never know.
majority. Most people didn't like it. But
We'll never know.
what
And
else is
then,
in your Grinch list?
well, the other thing on my Grinch list is, and I'm pretty sure that this is going to die a death soon as well, is the current feature that is the templated
Oh yeah.
posts. When was the last time you saw a templated post that wasn't from somebody saying you can now use templated posts on LinkedIn?
I have seen the odd one, but it is the odd one. Yeah, I take your point.
I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it solves a problem for people, because it's.
Mm,
I think something like, and we can obviously talk about automation next, but something like the integration of AI to help kickstart the post writing, that solves a problem for people, because people look at a
yeah.
blank sheet of paper all the time. The templated posts, not so
Well, so
much.
for those that don't know what templates are, just to give a quick update. So basically, that's where you can only do it on the phone. And then if you click template, you can write a short inspirational message or quote or something like that. And then you can stick a little design feature from a template. So you could have it on a black background or a colored background or whatever.
Mm.
And then it automatically adds it to your post and gives you kind of a bit of a graphic to go along with your post. And I guess where they started doing it, they must have noticed that people were using quotes a lot. So somebody that that springs to mind who does this is Adam Grant. So he'll take a quote and it'll look like it's kind of a graphical representation of what he's trying to say, which stands out in the feed a bit more. The trouble is, I think it's just badly executed. So I think there is maybe a need in that people want to add a bit of graphics, but it's just they just look awful, unfortunately.
And you know me, Phil. If ever I can get my hands on an inspirational quote, I'm all over it.
Yeah, well, yeah, you don't have to keep quotes in, but yeah, it could be something you want to say in a more impactful way. But Canva's, if you want to do a quote, you're best off just using Canva, and there's quite a lot you can use for free, and it is pretty easy. So, and you can only do
Yeah,
templates from your phone as well, which is a bit annoying for those desktop users out there.
but I think that's just user habit, isn't it? Because you can get those templated approaches on platforms like Instagram,
Yeah.
TikTok. So maybe it's just kind of leading from that. But that's my negativity out of the way for at least that section.
You feel better for it, getting it off your chest.
I feel slightly exercised, not completely exercised. There may be more to come
Okay.
on this stream. Um,
Yeah, I
give,
think I
give,
know where you're going with that one.
give us the counter to that, Phil. What do you think is what are the best features of LinkedIn, past and present? What are the most useful things?
Well, I think LinkedIn is doing a much better job of innovating and adding new features to the platform. I mean, in the last 6 months or so, maybe a year, it's almost weekly. There's something new coming up, and most of them, with the odd exception like templates, I think make things a little bit better. I think the one that I use most myself that's made the biggest difference to me is scheduling. So
Hmm.
that's where if you write a post and you're not ready to put it up, then you can schedule it for the future. And you can do that in increments of half hour on desktop and 15 minutes on mobile if you want to do it on a quarter of the hour on mobile. A little mini hack. But yeah, I find it really helpful. And the reason why I like it is it helps me get over the confidence hump. If there's something that I think, oh, people might be interested in this, I can write it and then schedule it for the next day and then forget about it without sort of making myself go, oh, I'm not going to put that up. Who's going to be interested in that? Which we all
Yeah.
get. I think most of us get. So I think that's a really useful one that I benefit from on a
Mm.
weekly basis.
Well, if there are any of the LinkedIn product team watching, I use obviously they are. I use scheduling quite regularly now. But I did notice the other day, I'd scheduled a post and then I wanted to go back and edit it. And there wasn't
Yeah,
the
you can't
capacity
edit,
to
can you?
edit it. So
Yeah,
you have to take it down. And then
yeah,
that to me feels like quite an easy win to be able to edit
yeah,
something
yeah,
once
yeah,
you've set the initial schedule up. So hopefully
yeah.
that will come in. What about do you harken back to the days of features that any particular features that don't exist, or do you think all of the right ones
I
have
think
stayed the course?
I think a useful one that they had for a short period of time was pinned comments. I'd like to see that come back.
Yes,
So
I agree.
that's where you get all your comments on the bottom, and you might comment yourself, and you might want that to be at the top so that people will see it. So it might be a link to something, or maybe an example I've seen that a client's really needed recently, where he got I mean, hundreds of comments on an article he put up, a really good article he wrote, and he didn't have time to respond in writing to all of the people because there are hundreds of them. He acknowledged them all, but if he'd been able to do a pinned comment, then he wrote a comment, but he'd want that comment, a catch-all comment, to be at the top.
Mm,
So that's a kind of good use case for pinned comments. So I
mm,
think I'd like to see that come back. I think I'd also like them to see them finish off the rollout of carousels. So
mm.
they created carousels, video carousels, and enhanced carousels at the end of last year, but I haven't really seen them being used very much. And I got a feeling they might be a bit glitchy.
Mm.
So it'd be good to see those, because at the moment, when you do a carousel, it's a document, isn't it? It's basically it's a PDF, it's a PowerPoint deck that you can
Yeah,
just
yeah,
scroll through. People think it's quite innovative, but it is just a PowerPoint.
yeah.
So, but the new ones look pretty good. So I'd like to see them rolled out a little quicker, and then
Mm.
we could have some better looking carousels.
I have one more, actually, a
Go on
slightly
then.
more positive. This is a positive,
Good.
but a negative at the same time.
Oh dear.
Do you remember, the SSI score that we love to hate?
Yeah.
Um, do you remember when you used to be able to see how it had changed over a period of time?
Oh
And
yeah.
then it just got replaced with static. You can only see it as it is now. I wish they'd reintroduced that, because that was at least semi-useful for trying to work out if there was any correlation between particular things that you've done and that score going up. And I
Yeah.
don't know why they killed that, because I found that more helpful than the static score.
I agree. I think it'd be good to see them actually publish how social selling index is calculated, so it's a little less murky and opaque.
Mm,
So people might have a bit more confidence in it. But yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
that's all good.
Okay.
That's some nice pieces to share. And anybody that's got anything to add, probably after the event, if they've got any features that they would like to see, put them in the comments. Or there's some that they've really enjoyed having. If you tag LinkedIn help, They do sometimes have a look
They do,
and
yeah.
respond to people. So,
And the more outrageous, the better, I say. Let's
so
see what
okay,
we can do.
there's a challenge. Outrageous LinkedIn feature. What would you like to see on the platform?
I'd like a nuke button.
A nuke button.
Like you can create a list of behaviors that you see on the platform. You can see how I'm leaning into this next bit here, perhaps.
Yeah.
And using the very latest in artificial intelligence, the list will be automatically populated by people that display the behaviors that you particularly don't like, and then you can
Yeah.
immediately block them. And get
No,
rid.
I'd like to see them explode in a big pixels everywhere. So yeah, boom.
I mean, I hadn't really fully thought of the exact way in which they would be nuked, but more a case of like something that allows you to just kind of block at scale of people that do things that are really annoying. And with absolutely no link whatsoever, let's talk about automation on LinkedIn, Phil. So I posted something earlier this week that it's a bugbear of mine, and I don't think for a second that it's a bugbear of just me. I think this is something that winds a lot of people up. It's when you get clearly templated connection requests in mails that are being distributed at scale, and you can tell they're being distributed at scale because there's absolutely nothing in there that bears any resemblance to what you do, what you talk about. Now we know that automation tools are sort of against the rules of engagement, the terms that LinkedIn sets out, but yet still some people are finding ways to do this and blurge out a high volume of connection request messages without really focusing on any of the quality of it, and it winds me up. It used to wind me up when I was in corporate world, but it winds me up just as much now when I get those. And I think my main difference with it is that LinkedIn makes it really easy for a prospective salesperson to find out whether or not you're relevant. And what you do is relevant. So if you're not even doing that and you're just plugging in an automation tool and blasting out loads of connection requests, I don't think it reflects very well on anybody. To be.
Have you tried any yourself? Have you tried to use any?
No, 100% absolutely not. No. That I think a large part of that is because I'm not in a sales role, so I don't need to plug into a scale of new connections and grow my network. But I'm quite relieved about that because it kind of runs counter to how I think LinkedIn should be used, not just by salespeople, but by anybody. What about you? Have you used any?
No. And look, I'm gonna try and present the case for it, okay, for using them. So to see whether I can persuade you, just as a thought experiment, because I'm not really a fan either. But let's imagine that I do like automation tools. So here's some reasons why you might want to.
I can't wait for you to get lots of automated messages on the back of this, Phil.
So automation tools. So the big reason for not using them, that people claim, is that you're going to get banned by LinkedIn because it's against the terms and conditions. As you said, I've actually checked the terms and conditions this morning, and you're right. You're not supposed to use them. However, when was the last time you heard of anybody actually banned or put in LinkedIn jail for using these type of automation tools? I've heard of people being put in LinkedIn jail, as in they have their account revoked for a period of time, but it's usually for other kinds of things that are against the terms and conditions. So I don't know that it actually happens very much. And there are lots of people using these tools. So if LinkedIn really wanted to take people out on it, it could, and it isn't.
So I suspect. So two things on that. One is anecdotally, I have heard about people who have been LinkedIn jail because they are sending too many connection requests out or too many
Now
messages out in a
that
short
is
space of
something else,
time.
though, isn't it? That's overcooking it. Anyway,
Well,
so
it's over, but you can do that a lot more readily when you're automating it, right? And that's
yeah,
one of
you
the
could, yeah,
tells for the automation tools.
but maybe that's just
Um,
bad automation. There's good automation and bad automation. Bear with
okay,
me.
Phil.
Don't knock me off because I've only got about 3 minutes worth of enthusiasm for automation. So it doesn't happen. So people don't get struck off as much as some people would say. So that was one reason to not worry about it. The second reason is, why should automation be bad on LinkedIn but okay on email or other types of communication method? So we're used to seeing automated workflows on email, and the idea that you send out an email if it's not followed up, or it is followed up, then send this piece of content, do this, do that. Why is that acceptable on email but not acceptable on LinkedIn?
Interesting point. I think it is often the organization or the teams or the people behind it that cause the problem. So, in principle, I wouldn't have a problem with automation if it was relevant,
Yeah.
targeted, and effective. Email marketing campaigns are not run typically by sales teams or salespeople. They are run by marketing teams who understand that there is a process and there is a like a phasing of a message that needs to be landed. That's not to say that email marketing is 100%. It's not. They get it wrong. There's too much of it. The messages are bad targeted still, but typically it's coming from part of the organization that understands there is a way to do it. I think the problem with automation when it's used by sales teams is it typically is about trying to bump up the number of connections you've got, trying to land in someone's feed in a often unsolicited way to try and flog something to them that often they don't want because you haven't done the research properly. So I think there is a potential for the automation to be used more effectively on LinkedIn for those individuals, but they need to be thinking about it differently from the outset to have a chance of making that work.
Well, okay, so that sounds like there's a little chink in the door that there's maybe a place for it if it's used properly. Because I think that all the evidence that we see that makes us hot under the collar about automation is because we see it done badly. We might be
Mhm.
seeing there might be a lot of automation that's happening to us or to people that we know without them even knowing about it because it's actually done well. So we
Mhm.
tend to kind of highlight the bad stuff. So if you've got somebody that's putting some thought into the targeting to make sure it's reaching the right people, the message is well crafted, the flow is well created. I've had a little look at some automation tools this morning, and a lot of them are now positioning themselves as being integrated with other types of automation, like email automation. You see
Mm.
things like Zapier. So I think if it's well created, and if you're convinced around the point about whether you're going to get banned, which I think is still in the background there,
Mm.
then yeah, maybe. I've listed a few companies for people to investigate if they want to try automation. These are some that I found: Expandy, Dripify,
Oh, good lord.
Meet Alfred, and LI Prospect. There are a few that I looked at this morning. I mean, you put LinkedIn automation into Google, and there's so many
Yeah,
sponsored ads on it. I mean, it is quite big business.
yeah.
Um,
Just to stress, those names are not an endorsement, and you use it at your own peril. We are not responsible for this, and we are not advocating that you should do it.
no. If you get
You
banned,
are
it's not our
taking
fault.
you're taking your presence on the account on the platform into your own hands if you decide
Yeah.
to go down that route.
There you go.
But
I
I
think
think
we were fairly balanced there, Dan.
I think so, and I think the
Yeah.
one thing I would add on top of that is though, if you're in automation, don't make it look like you're using automation by failing to just look at someone's profile and see if they're relevant before you send out that generic message,
Yeah.
because you're going to fall into the same trap. Right. Last but by no means least on the list of things today, Phil,
Mm.
social advocacy, specifically employee social advocacy. So, could you explain what you are talking about when you talk about employee social advocacy?
Wow. What I mean by employee advocacy is when you're using social media to help your people be the voice of the brand and connect with audiences and do that kind of thing that you might expect a brand channel to do. So basically, have a whole army of people that your employees to be able to do your brand communications. And there are different aspects to that. It's not just about the platform that you use to amplify, which we'll talk about the platforms in a little bit, but it's the training, it's the guidance, it's the encouragement to help your people do your work on LinkedIn for you.
Interesting. So I think the extra layer that I'd add to that is it's about enabling the willing people in your organization to bring the brand, the proposition, the organization to life in their terms. That's what I think good employee social advocacy is. Bad employee advocacy is telling them prescriptively exactly what they need to post and giving them cookie cutter templated stuff that then gets blasted out by all and sundry. So, and as you know, I'm the Grinch, but I am a fan of employee social advocacy when it's done right.
So did you use it in your last company? Because you were like working for a large corporate. So was it used there?
Yeah, so our team actually, we were early adopters on employee social advocacy, and we ran what we had to position at the time was a pilot because we couldn't get permission to do it if it was a full-blown project from the off. We ran a pilot of up to, I think, 1,500 employees, and this kind of setup was we used a third-party platform that allowed employees to decide which of their social media channels they wanted to plug in. We would then curate content, news stories, resharing corporate brand content into those channels so that they knew about it and they could decide what things they wanted to share, what things they didn't. And we also allowed them to submit suggestions for things that they'd seen that they thought it would be useful to share as well. So it was a really interesting experiment. It was a few years ago now, so I don't claim to have current finger on the pulse of this, but it worked really well. Have you done it?
A comment in from Joe. Do you want to flash that up and I'll get my stuff ready?
Yes. So
just back to
we are talking about automation. As much of this that will actually show. So last bit about making sure the prospect is relevant is the key point for me, whether you're using automation tools or not. There's nothing more likely to make my blood boil than people trying to sell to me LinkedIn training. I'm just going to take that off the screen so I can see the rest of the quote. So it takes 2 seconds to establish that's what I do by visiting my profile page. 100% Joe, and that's it. All of the information that person needs to make a decent sales pitch is right in front of them. All they've got to do is look at it, right? So we've had another post in here from Anita. And I think you've been chatting to Anita.
Yeah, so just for those that don't know, Anita's the Director of Social Media and Advocacy at Ericsson, based in Stockholm.
Awesome. So she agrees on employee advocacy. I would even add that even if employees never share corporate news content, but they share their expertise, they still contribute to brand recognition. 100%. And that is the key, isn't it? It's not shackling your employees to regurgitating very specific messages and lines. It's about encouraging them to see it as a platform for them to share their knowledge, their expertise, their passion, and contribute to discussions in a way that is going to positively reinforce the values of the brand and what the organization stands for. Thanks, Anita.
I think it's probably worth, I'll come back to Anita because she's given me some other stuff as well before the show. But when we're talking about these prompts and sharing stuff with people, for those that might be watching it don't know, the way a lot of this works is that there are software tools out there like Everyone's Social, VoiceStorm, Social HP, and they work by giving people some already ready oven ready content that they're able to then share with their network. So it's all on a piece of software they sign into, and you can do it on LinkedIn, on Facebook and Twitter and whatnot, so that they've got the content ready made. And that's the sort of thing that a lot of people get a little bit frustrated with, because it's all very, very similar to everything else that's out there. So a lot of the time it's down to actually bad implementation of employee advocacy tools rather than the tools themselves. I think the tools can actually be really helpful, but often they're badly used. So that's the thing that we're often referring to there.
I think as well, there are bad behaviours amongst employees as well. So it can be badly implemented, or it could be really well implemented, and there could be very clear guidance and structure in place for the teams and lots of support. But you are still going to have people that will just want to push out absolutely everything that's in there. They won't customize it. They won't take the time to tailor it to make it relevant for their audiences. And that's not something that the team behind it should rest on their laurels over. They've got to play an active role in educating and coaching people so that what they're sharing has the best possible impacts for the audiences that they're sharing it with. Tom Pearce just dropped in quite as well. A huge push for them on employee advocacy. Free advertising. Free advertising, that's an interesting phrase. It's also an opportunity for employees to feel proud about what they do and inspire others. I would absolutely 100% agree on the last point. I think around the idea of it being free advertising, I would take that with a degree of salt, or a small pinch of salt, because the employer cannot take for granted that the employee is going to do it, and they can't take their channels for granted either. They've got to earn the right, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it necessarily, saying it's free advertising doesn't necessarily mean that. I think it's just a way of expressing that it actually gets out there to people without having to like pay for the space as such. So it's not like when you put paid social ads or billboard ad, you've got to pay for the space. I think the organic social media implies that you're not having to pay extra for it. So I think that's a fair point. I've got some other comments in from people, Dan. So I sent a few messages out to people I know, and some of them are in different time zones, so they're not necessarily able to join us on this. So I had something from a lady called Tracy Borison, who does similar kind of stuff to us. She's in Canada, in Calgary. So she's similar to what we said here. All companies are giving their are companies giving their employees a reason to be an advocate? So you've got to ask that question. You can't force it. You've got to inspire it. So it's kind of similar to what you were just saying just there. Roger Christie, who runs an agency called Propel in Sydney, Australia. He says, my question would be why you think organizations are reluctant to let their people talk on social, yet you're happy to hire them and pay them for their time. He's been doing a project here with a client, and he said, our super client said recently to me, you need to trust them and give them the microphone. They are the voices of your culture and values, which is quite a good point. Damien Corbett, who is author of the Social CEO book and runs the Social Suite LinkedIn group. We actually put this question in to his group, which popped up this morning. And so he just says, I'm just making sure employees are aware their C-suite is active on LinkedIn or other channels is a start. So linking it through to what the executives are doing. And I caught up with Brad Dickinson, who is the co-founder of Social HP. So they actually run one of these employee advocacy tools. And I can give you a little teaser. They're going to be launching something soon, which is about executive communications that I've been talking to them about. So kind of our kind of normal day job, Dan. So I'm going to come back with some stuff on that later. But it's quite cool what they're doing.
Please don't break that news on a live stream, Phil.
He's given me permission. He wanted me to talk all about it. I said, no, let's keep our powder dry, Brad. And anyway, so he's given me a load of points here, but I think the couple that I'd like to pull out are: your people are the brand. Employee advocacy helps connect your customers to your employees in a way that's unique to traditional marketing efforts, and employee advocacy only works if it doesn't feel like homework for your staff. I think that last point, when I've helped run these in the past in my agency life, And the people, when you made it feel like an extra job for them, or a task-based work, it really people didn't appreciate it. So you kind of got to make it a bit fun and something that they're going to want to do.
It's got to be carrot, not stick. People already have enough to do with their time. Awesome. And thank you for that.
I missed one from Anita, who has actually joined and given some comments here. But she also talks about having a simple social media policy, which is helpful, and creating simple and accessible enablement platforms, e-learning, lunch and learn, masterclasses, and community where they can share amongst each other. So again, that's kind of back to that, implementation point. You've got to give people the tools to do the job rather than just give them the employee advocacy tool itself.
100% with the e-learning platform, with the lunch and learns. That's what we did, and I think for anybody that's embarking on this, you've got to be prepared to rinse and repeat this exercise as well, because it's not a one-time thing. It's a constant ongoing dialogue with the people that you want to engage in these kind of programs. So absolutely brilliant. Phil, we have massively.
I know we're over on time, but should we put the comments on? Tom and Joseph. I don't know if you put those up while I was rambling on.
I didn't know. So Tom,
just clarification.
Sorry, Tom, if it felt like I was taking you to task.
you were playing your Grinch too hard, Dan.
I was, Grinch hard. That's what I say. And from Joe, would love to get our whole team involved. It speaks to the culture and the unity vision. I think it starts with those that are willing. You are 100% right, Joe. There is 0 point in trying to persuade people to do it in the first place. My recommendation is ask people who's interested, and those that put their hands up straight away, you invest all of your time and energy on making it work for them, because they are the ones that are your guinea pigs, your willing entities. And even if it's only like 3 or 4 people, you've got something to start with, and then you can build out, and they can go out into the organization very authentically and bring other people in that like the sound of it once other people have made those first moves. So we are going to need to wrap up, Phil, because we are 8 minutes over. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for your comments. They've been added a lot to the discussion. We are going to be back same time next week. We'll announce details of what we're going to be talking about early next week. But if you have any suggestions, any comments as you're watching this back for things that we should be talking about in future episodes, don't hesitate to let us know, either in the comments or directly. Otherwise, have a great rest of your Friday, fantastic weekend, and we will see you again soon.
You're on mute, Dan.
Just going to go to the outro rather than the intro, Phil. That was a smooth move on my behalf. We are actually going to go now.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
I didn't swear.
Speak soon.